everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Art of Business English. Now, this is Andrew Ambrosius here again for another useful and inspiring episode. Now, today I have a not to be missed episode. We often associate business with success and winning and all the great things that come with building an empire and making lots of money. Now, this is wonderful, or the wonderful side of business that everyone aspires to reach. On the other hand, what about failure? Okay, as Robert F. Kennedy once said, only those who dare to fail greatly can ever achieve greatly. So on the path to success, there are so many train wrecks along the way. With every new idea, there's always a big chance of failure. Now, however, we must remember it can only take one idea out of 1,000 to be a success for you to make it big. And making it big sounds great, but today we are talking about failure, the train wrecks and disasters on our path to greatness. Now, got a project that's going down the drain? Have an employee who is a complete disaster? Got a business idea that has turned into a major headache? If that sounds familiar, then check out today's episode where we explore idioms for talking about failure. So, as always, I've divided this episode into the following parts. Firstly, we'll be looking at collocations for talking about failure. Then in the second part, I'll cover some adjectives for failure. Thirdly, I want to share 6 expressions you can use informally to talk about failure with your friends or colleagues, okay? And these phrases are not your everyday expressions, and you probably haven't heard them before, okay? And then to wrap things up, I'll be showing you some business scenarios, okay, where you can apply this vocabulary in your everyday working life, okay? Plus, I'll give you some tips on how to learn them and put them into practice, okay? To make sure that you download the free PDF to help you study, okay? It's on the website. All right, let's kick things off by looking at some collocations. But before we start, got a bit of a cold, so if I sound a bit nasally, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sure you'll forgive me. Okay, let's get started with collocations for talking about failure. So I think firstly it's important to quickly review collocations for those of you who may need a refresher. Now, as you may know, collocations are words in English that naturally go together. And many collocations are formed using make and do. So some examples of these are do your homework and make arrangements. And it's also important to note that there is a distinction between a weak collocation and strong collocations. So weak collocations, for example, are take a break and have a break. The verb is different for both, but the collocations mean the same thing. Whereas a stronger collocation, on the other hand, they're fixed in nature. Okay, you can't modify the verb in this case. Most collocations are strong, meaning they're a fixed expression. So an example would be to do the dishes. Okay, you can't make the dishes. Now, due to the fixed nature of collocations, they must really be learnt by heart. Okay, you need to memorize them. We don't really associate grammar rules with collocations. Okay, so they must be acquired either through direct study or indirectly through contact with native people or reading. I always encourage my students to read as much as they can. Okay, that's a great way. And in many cases, it's a free way to improve your English, okay? So now that we have that little definition out of the way, let's take a look at some collocations. Now, as always, I'll give you the expression and then my attempt at the Spanish translation. Now, if the translation sounds a bit weird, then drop me an email and let me know the correct one. But hey, I'm not a native Spanish speaker and I don't care. I just get on with it, and that's what you should be doing, okay, with your English, not worry too much. So the first one, to fail miserably. So to fail miserably is fracasar estrepitosamente. Okay, that's a difficult word for me to pronounce. Estrepitosamente. Now, the next one is to dash someone's hopes. To dash someone's hopes. So that would be destrozar las esperanzas de alguien. Next one, to lose one's nerve. Now we can substitute one's here for my, your, his, her. Okay, remember that. So to lose one's nerve is perder los nervios. To fail completely, fracasar completamente. A mediocre performance, a mediocre performance. Resultados mediocres. A total lack of remarkable achievements. A total lack of remarkable achievements. That's una falta de logros notables. A spectacular failure. A spectacular failure. Remember, pronunciation is very important. It's spectacular. So we're using the neutra. Spectacular failure. Fracaso espectacular. So to be a recipe for disaster. To be a recipe for disaster. So ser una receta para el desastre. Okay, next one is to be way off the mark. To be way off the mark. Now, if you're way off the mark, it's estar muy equivocado. Next one, to be doomed to failure. To be doomed to failure. Now, if you are to be doomed to failure, abocado al fracaso. Next one, as a last resort. As a last resort. Como a último recurso. Now, next one, to get off on the wrong foot. To get off on the wrong foot. To get off on the wrong foot means empezar con mal pie. All right, losing your edge. So losing your edge is perder tu toque. All right. Throw in the towel is the next one. So throw in the towel is tirar la toalla. Let it or let something slip through your fingers or my fingers or his fingers or her fingers or their fingers. So to let something slip through one's fingers means dejarlo escapar entre los dedos. Okay, another one, quite colloquial, this one. Close but no cigar. Close but no cigar. Casi pero no. A fool's errand. A fool's errand. A fool's errand is absurdo, una tontería. This will never fly. This will never fly. If this will never fly, it means no ir a ninguna parte. To get the better of you. To get the better of you. Dejar que te afecte. To go up in smoke. To go up in smoke. If something goes up in smoke, then it means deshacerse en humo. To fall to pieces. If something falls to pieces, caerse a pedazos. And finally, to go down the toilet. To go down the toilet. To go down the toilet means desvanecerse. Well, I'll try that one again. Desvanecerse. Okay, so to go down the toilet, desvanecerse. Okay, now that we have looked at the collocations, let's turn our attention to some adjectives for describing failure. So remember, adjectives can help you to better describe a situation, so you can basically put more emphasis on the type of failure. Now, in the following part, I'll give you the adjective and then I will share an example with you. So let's go. The first one, absolute. So absolute, this is an absolute failure. We'll have to start all over again, okay? An absolute failure. Next one, colossal. So the company made a colossal failure hiring him. He has no experience. The company made a colossal failure hiring him. He has no experience. Next one is catastrophic. Catastrophic. And the pronunciation is very important. Catastrophic. Now, your idea has been a catastrophic failure. I hope you have a better one. Your idea has been a catastrophic failure. I hope you have a better one. Next one, biggest. The biggest failure was firing the only one who knew how to manage the department. So the biggest failure was firing the only one who knew how to manage the department. So that's your superlative, the biggest. Human. In our company, there's no room for human failure. Or you could also say, there's no room for human error. Okay, in our company, there's no room for human failure or human error. Inevitable. Again, pronunciation here. It's got a neutra. It's not inevitably. It's inevitable. Inevitable. So we use the There's two neutrals. We call the neutra in English the schwa. Okay, don't ask me why it's called schwa, but it's neutra, and it's the sound. So inevitable. This was an inevitable failure. We should just go on. Okay. Massive. This was a massive failure. I'll start this one again. This massive failure will set the company back 2 months. This massive failure will set the company back 2 months. Next one, spectacular. Spectacular. Okay, normally we think spectacular is positive, but we can say the spectacular failure of her rival's company made hers grow even more. Okay, so we can use what we would associate as a positive adjective with a negative thing such as failure. Okay, so the spectacular failure of her rival's company made hers grow even more. Right, next one is complete. It would have been a complete failure if not for her. It would have been a complete failure if not for her. And the last one is minor. So this was a minor failure. We can still make the deadline. So this was a minor failure. We can still make the deadline. So from this list, you can see how we apply adjectives and collocate them with the word failure to describe the degree or severity of the failure. Okay, so remember, due to the nature of how some words can work together with others, not all adjectives will work with failure. So for example, an entire failure does not collocate. Okay, an entire failure. That does not collocate. However, a complete failure does. Okay, so even though entire and complete are synonyms, that they don't always collocate with the same words. Okay, so that's important to remember. Okay, just be careful with your collocations. They sometimes work and they sometimes don't. So let's move on to the third part of this lesson, and that is the colloquial expressions for talking about failure. Now, in this part, we're going to be looking at 6 colloquial expressions that you can use in less formal situations, okay? So it's important that you understand them in context if you are to use them correctly, okay? So to help you out, I've provided the translation. So the first one is a dead duck. A dead duck. Okay, so again, if you translate that literally, it's not going to work. A dead duck, un pato muerto. It's una causa perdida. Okay, so a dead duck is una causa perdida. A lose-lose situation, okay? A lose-lose situation. Una situación donde ambos partes pierden. Now, normally we think of a win-win situation. A win-win situation is what we want in our negotiations. But in this case, a lose-lose situation is where nobody wins. It's a complete failure. Okay, to go pear-shaped. To go pear-shaped, okay? Pear, una pera. So to go pear-shaped is salir mal. Now this one's very colloquial, and I'm going to have to explain this one. It's all gone Pete Tong. It's all gone Pete Tong. Now this title, or this it's actually from a movie. Okay, the title is a reference to a Cockney rhyming slang. Okay, it's a Cockney rhyming slang phrase used in Britain from the 80s to the present day, referring to the BBC Radio 1 DJ called Pete Tong. And it stands for It's All Gone a Bit Wrong. Okay. Now, there is a film and it was released in April 15, 2005. So it's all gone Pete Tong, meaning it's all gone a bit wrong. And that basically in the translation is todo ha ido mal. Okay. Probably haven't heard that one before. Now, to fall flat on your face is the next one. To fall flat on your face. Caer de bruces, fracasar totalmente en un intento. Okay? Nobody wants to fall flat on their face. And the last one, my plans have gone to shit. All right? Bit of a swear word there, but it's quite colloquial to say something has gone to shit. Mis planes se han ido a la mierda. Okay, so that's 6 colloquial expressions that you may have never heard before. And remember, they're quite informal, so you probably wouldn't use them in a formal situation. So let's wrap things up and look at a few expressions in context. So, expressions for failure in context. I'll give you the situation and then the expression, and then I'll give you an example sentence, which I hope will help you to better understand the context and the meaning. So, socializing is the situation for the first one. To fail miserably. To fail miserably. Our five-a-side football team failed miserably in last week's match. We are the worst team in the whole league. In a meeting, to go down the toilet. I can see our entire investment in this project going down the toilet. So I can see our entire investment in this project going down the toilet. In a mentor discussion, so to get the better of you. Now, Mike, don't let your emotions get the better of you. You must remain level-headed. Okay, so Mike, don't let your emotions get the better of you. You must remain level-headed. And in a business development discussion, to slip through one's fingers. We can't let this opportunity slip through our fingers. It will put us at a distinct disadvantage over our competitors. So we can't let this opportunity slip through our fingers. It will put us at a distinct disadvantage over our competitors. Okay, now, and the last one, analyst, to be way off the mark. So after having undertaken our analysis of the current situation, we realize that we are way off the mark. Instead of having made a profit, the company is actually down 10% on this time last year. So after having undertaken our analysis of the current situation, we realize that we are way off the mark. Instead of having made a profit, the company is actually down 10% on this time last year. So before I go then, let's just quickly cover how we can study, learn, and internalize some of these expressions. Well, one of the best ways would be to listen to this episode a few times. Okay, repetition is one of the most effective ways to learn new things. Secondly, you can download the cheat sheet from the episode at the AOBE website. I have put all the expressions from today's episode there, and you can review 5 expressions a day. And finally, if you want to internalize these expressions, then you're going to have to start using them in your everyday English. And by that, I mean make a conscious effort to use at least 3 of them, okay? Or 3 of these expressions this week in your next conversation or your phone call or an email. And remember, if you want to check that you have understood the meaning or if you've understood them in the right context, just send me an email with your sentence and I'll tell you if that is correct or not, okay? So there you have it, my friends, an extensive list of vocabulary and expressions for talking about failure. Now, if you have any questions regarding this list, then drop me an email at aobe@theartofbusinessenglish.com. And if you're new to the AOBE podcast, then please head over to www.theartofbusinessenglish.com/subscribe to sign up for free, okay? And you can listen to the AOBE podcast on iTunes, on Spotify or Stitcher, and make sure you also sign up to our mailing list, okay? And be the the first to know when we release a new episode. Now, if you haven't already taken advantage of our premium membership, of course you should. Head over to theartofbusinessenglish.com/levels, LEVELS, and you get the first month for free, and you can check out all the value, and then you only pay $4.99 a month. Okay, well, that's all from me then, people, from today. I look forward to having you all again back next week. Till then, take care. Bye for now.